The Gemara begins by referring to the halacha which we saw earlier, that you're not allowed to use a fire for the mitzvah of ner, the bracha on Matzoi Shabbos, if that fire was lit on Shabbos in a forbidden way. So the Gemara now says, what happens if I lit a fire after Shabbos from that fire? Can I say a bracha on this new fire? So the Gemara says it depends who lit from whom. If it was a guy who lit from a Jew's fire, or a Jew who lit from a guy's fire, both those cases are mutter. If it's a Jew's fire, it wasn't lit on Shabbos. If it's a guy's fire and a Jew's lighting from it, then it becomes mutter. And the Gemara now says, but if a guy lit from a guy's fire, right, a guy lit a fire on Shabbos, and then another guy lights from his fire after Shabbos, that fire you're not allowed to say a bracha on. So the Gemara asks, I don't understand. What should the reason for this be? If a Jew lit from a guy's fire, why is that mutter? The reason must be because this is considered to be a new fire. It's not the same old fire. The Gemara is assuming that the understanding is that fire is new. As it burns, each flame is considered a new thing. It's new energy released by the oxidation reaction, and therefore it's a new thing. It's not the old fire anymore. So the Gemara says, if that's true, so then a guy who lit from a guy is also a problem. Now, Taisvus notes that the Gemara doesn't articulate this question that way. It attacks it in a different way. The Gemara says that we have halacha that if you carry a fire on Shabbos, you're chayiv. Now, this is a situation where you're not chayiv for carrying anything else. The fire is burning in something that is too small to be a violation of Shabbos. It's the fire itself. Now, the Gemara asks, in order to be chayiv on Shabbos for carrying, you have to take something out of one domain. You have to pick it up from one domain, transfer it to another domain, and put it down. If it's a new fire every second, then you didn't transfer, because what you put down is not what you picked up. So it must prove that it's not considered a new fire all the time. So the Gemara says the following thing. Here's what's really the story. A fire as it burns is not a new fire. The old fire still exists. And therefore, if you carry it, you're still violating Shabbos. You picked it up at one place, you put it down in a different place. But additional fire comes. We view it as if there's additional fire. So the bracha, you could say on the new additional fire. So if a Jew took a fire from a guy, lit from the guy's fire, then you can say that there's an added fire here, and therefore you're allowed to say the bracha on that new part, which was not burning over Shabbos. Now the Gemara asks if that's true, so then if a guy lit from a guy's fire, it should also be true. The new fire didn't burn on Shabbos. The Gemara says, you're right, should have been true. But we're afraid if we allow you to say a bracha on a fire that a guy lit from a guy, you'll end up saying a bracha on a fire that the guy lit himself in the first case on Shabbos. You'll confuse the two. It's all guy. So therefore the Gemara says you shouldn't do that. Now the Gemara quotes another brisa which discusses a related halacha. The brisa says if you're traveling outside a city and you see a big fire from inside the city, are you allowed to say the bracha on that? So the Gemara says, well, it has to be that it belongs to a Jew. So it depends what the population of the city is. If it's majority Jewish, then you can say the bracha on it. If it's a majority non-Jewish, you cannot say the bracha on it. So the Gemara says, what if it's 50-50? Yeah, that's stuck between your two halachos. What should that be? So the Gemara says 50-50 is also good. The only reason why we said it has to be Roiv Jewish, majority Jewish to be good, is because we wanted to be parallel with the original phraseology in the first half of the brisa. Okay, now the Gemara quotes another brisa with a related halacha. If somebody is walking on the road after Shabbos and he sees a child walking holding a torch, so he has to check and see if the child's Jewish. He can say the bracha on it. If not, then he cannot. So the Gemara says, what does it do to being a child? Even if it's an adult, if he's Jewish, you could say the bracha on it, and if he's a guy, then you cannot. So the Gemara says the case is as follows. It was right after Shabbos was over. If it would be an adult, you could assume that it must be a non-Jew. An adult Jew would not be holding a torch so close to Shabbos. A child could be that even if he's Jewish, will hold the torch so close to Shabbos because he just happened to lift it up. The Gemara now brings in three related halachos. Each halacha has two contradictory brises saying what the halacha is. The first is a furnace which is used for firing bricks or stones or lime and things like that. Can you say the bracha on that? One brisa says yes, one says no. The second contradiction is a stove or an oven. Can you say a bracha of ma'ori ha'esh on that? Again, we have a contradiction. One brisa says yes, one brisa says no. And the third one is a fire in a shul. Again, contradiction. So the Gemara resolves these three with the same principle. The principle is that in order to be able to say the bracha on it of Maria Eish, it has to be that the fire was lit or is being used for the purpose of light, not for other reasons. Therefore, as far as the furnace goes, when a furnace is originally lit, it's lit for firing. You can't say the bracha on it. However, later, after it's already fired, and then it's used for light, the worker inspects his handiwork by the light of the fire. Therefore, then you could say the bracha on it. As far as the oven, same thing. In the beginning, it's used for cooking, for baking, whatever it is, and then afterwards, it's left on so that you can use it for light. So at that point, you can say the bracha on it. And then we have the case of the fire in the shul. So the Gemara has 3 levels of the answer here. The Gemara says, first of all, the light of the shul, if there's a chashiv, there's a VIP, there's a very important individual there, then it could be that the light in the shul was lit in his honor. That's not for light, that's for honor. In which case, you can't say the bracha on it. However, if an Adam chashiv is not there, then you could. Then the Gemara says, really, I can tell you another answer. Even if there's an important person there, if there's a gabai, a person who lives in the shul, and he eats and he reads by the light of the lights in the shuls, and even if there's a chashiv a person there, the light is lit for him to see. Then he gives another answer. Even I'll tell you that the gabai is there, but maybe sometimes the moon's up and sometimes the moon is not up. If the moon is up, then the gabai uses the moonlight, and therefore the light of the fire is not used. But if the moon is not up, then the gabai is using the light of the fire. Here we have 3 different ways of answering when the lights in the shul are used for light and when they're not used for light at all. Now the Gemara quotes a halacha from a brisa, which is a machlokes beis Hillel and beis Shammai. What if everybody was sitting and learning in the beis medrash and they brought in a fire? They got a fire. Now it's time to say the bracha. So beis Shammai says they should pass around the fire and everybody should say the bracha to himself. You don't want to say the bracha out loud for everybody. It's going to interrupt the learning. It'll cause bittul Torah. Beis Hillel says no, one person should get up and say the bracha for everybody, because it's better to have one bracha recited for a large number of people, because it says Roiv Hadras Melech, the more people that are involved in a bracha, the better. The Gemara says, but what about Beis Shammai? What does he do about that? So he says, again, you don't want to disturb the learning. The Gemara says you could even go further with that. Rabbi Gamliel's yeshiva, they used to say if somebody sneezes in the beis medrash, you don't say gesundheit. It's a disruption. Now the Gemara moves on to the next phrase in the Mishnah, which was that the besamim, the smelling spices, and the ner, the fire, which are set up for the dead, you cannot say either bracha on those. And the Gemara says, what's the reason? The Gemara says, because the fire is not made for light, and the besamim are not made for smelling, for giving a good smell. The fire is meant for honor, to show respect for the dead, and the besamim are there to take away the smell as the corpse begins to decay. There's a bad smell, you want to cover that up. But it's not meant to smell good. It's meant to block a bad smell. Therefore, you cannot say the bracha on it. The Gemara amends this by saying it really depends how chashav the person who is being carried out to his funeral is. If it's a person who is so honorable that they would bring candles before him even during the day, then it's clearly not for light, and therefore you can't say the bracha on it. If, however, they're only bringing candles for him at night, then it is for light. It's so they should be able to see that you can say the bracha al haner on that. Now the Gemara goes into the halachos of saying a bracha on besamim. We seem to go with the principle that if the item that has a good smell is not designed for smelling, then you shouldn't say a bracha on it. So the Gemara goes to a number of things here. The Gemara says, Rav Huna says, you cannot say a bracha on besamim of a bathroom. Those are there to block a bad smell, not to give you a good smell. You can't say a bracha on the special fragrant oils that people use to rub on the hands after a meal. That's also to block the smells from the meals. And the Gemara seems to say, okay, so great. So I see that the rule is you don't say bracha on something not designed for smelling. But the Gemara says I have a problem with that, because there's a Mishnah that says that if you have a store that has good smelling spices in it, so you do say a bracha on that, right? The Gemara says if you're sitting in the store the whole day, you only say the bracha once. If you go out and you come back in, you say another bracha. Either way, the point is you do say a bracha on this stuff, and that stuff is there for people to buy. It's not there for good smell. So the Gemara says, no, the store owner also has in mind that it should have a good smell. He wants people to smell it, so they should come in, and that will convince them to purchase it. But it's not only to sit there to be bought, it's also to be smelt. Now the Gemara quotes a brisa which discusses if you're walking by a city and you smell a great smell coming from out of the city, can you say a bracha on it or not? So similar to what we said before, the brisa says if it's a majority non-Jews living in the city, you can't say a bracha on it. You have to assume it's from a feast of non-Jews, which we said you can't say a bracha on that. The Gemara says if it's majority Jewish, then you could say a bracha on it. Now the brisa says that Rabbi Yossi says even if it's majority Jewish, you can't say a bracha on it. No, why not? So it seems to give an interesting reason. It seems to say because there's a majority of Jewish girls who burn incense to witchcraft. So versus a majority of Jewish girls been interested in witchcraft, that can't be. But there are a number of Jewish girls who do that, and there are a lot who burn incense in order to perfume their clothing. those two combined, you have situations where you have a large number of people, even in a Jewish city, that don't have some in order to be smelled. They have some in order to maybe give scent to something else, but that's not called some for smell. Now the Gemara says, okay, so therefore you cannot say a bracha even if it's a majority Jewish city and you don't know what the smell is for. Okay, now the Gemara says, somebody who walks from Tiveria to Tzipori, he walks near Tiveria on Friday afternoon, and he walks by Tzipori. Tzipori is a city not far from Tiveria. If he walks by there on Motzei Shabbos, after Shabbos, he can't say a bracha on any smell that he smells at that time, because the custom was that people then would be perfuming their clothing. In Tiveria, they perfumed before Shabbos in order that they should have good smelling clothing on Shabbos, and in Tzipori they did it after Shabbos to console themselves for the departure of Shabbos, like we do with Psalmim today. Either way, it's not made for smelling, it's meant for perfuming. So you can't say a bracha on that. Melimah throws in over here one last brisa with one more halacha. If somebody's walking in a marketplace that sells avodah zarah, idol worship, and there are good smells there, and he intends to smell the good smell, he is a sinner. If, however, he's just walking and he happens to smell the smell, he's not intending to enjoy it, then he's not considered to be a sinner. Okay, now the Gemara goes back to the Mishnah, which we had the halacha that one may not say a bracha on a fire on Motzei Shabbos until he benefits from the light. The Gemara quotes a machlokes between two Amoraim, what it means that he has to benefit from the light in order to be able to say the bracha on it. According to Rav Yehuda, name of Rav, he doesn't have to actually benefit from the light. It has to be a light that's strong enough that if he would be standing near it, he would be able to use it. This is not talking about, this halacha is not about the person, it's about the level of strength of the light. The Gemara says later that Rava's opinion, and a number of other people as well, is that no, you have to actually benefit from the light. But first the Gemara discusses the first opinion, where we said you don't have to actually benefit from the light, and the Gemara asks that we have a brisa which says that in order to be able to say the bracha on the fire, it has to be that you can see the flame and you can benefit from the light. If you have one without the other, then you can't say the bracha on it. So the Gemara says, let's think about this. What is a case of one without the other? How could you use the light without seeing the flame? Okay, that I can understand. The flame's around the corner, the light's glowing, and you could see it. So on that, the Brisa says you can't say a bracha because you don't see the flame. Now what's the other case? You see the flame but you don't use the light. How could that be? It must be that you're too far away. Aha! So you see here that if you're too far away from the light to be able to use it, even if you see the flame, you can't say a bracha. That contradicts Rav Yehuda, the name of Rav, who said that you could. The Gemara says, no, that's not the case. The case is that the light is not strong enough for you to be able to do anything by it. Even if you're standing an inch away, the light's going out. There you can see the flame, but it's not bright enough to illuminate anything. That's what it means, and therefore it fits. Now the Gemara over here quotes another brisa. The brisa says that you can say a bracha on coals that are glowing. The Gemara calls them whispering coals. They make a sound. But coals that are dying, embers that are going out, they just barely have any redness to them, and that you can't say the bracha on. The Gemara says, how do you define it? As long as if you throw a stick between the coals, the stick bursts into flames, that's still on fire enough to be able to say a bracha on it. Now the Gemara is interesting. The word that we use for coals that are going out is oimim leis. The Gemara says, oimim leis, is that with an aleph, or is that with an ayin? The Gemara says that we have a proof. Rav Chizah Bar Avdimi says is a pasuk that says Arozim loy amamuhu began elokim. It spells amamu with an ayin. So you see that's the right spelling. Okay, so this is all the opinion of Rav Yehuda Amar Rav that says that you don't have to be close enough to the fire to use it. You don't have to actually use it. It's just defining how bright it has to be. Now the Gemara says the other opinion is Rava and a number of other people who say that you have to actually use the fire. Now, the Gemara asks how much use do you have to actually derive from the light. So the Gemara has two versions. Ula says either you have to be able to tell the difference between two coins, an usr and an isser and a pundion, or the second one is you have to be able to tell the difference between two weights, the weight of Tiveria and the weight of Tzipori. Now the Gemara lists a number of Chachamim who would say a bracha on the light coming from someone else's house, and according with their Shita. Rabbi Yehuda said the bracha on the light of Ada Diyala. He lived far away, and that goes with Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. You don't have to actually use the light. Rava said the bracha on the light of the house of Giora Bar Chama. He lived close by, according to his opinion. Abaye said the bracha over the light of the house of Bar Avua. It's not clear who Abaye held like, so we don't know how far away that house was. Now the Gemara brings another halacha. Rabbi Yehuda said that you shouldn't go looking for the fire. If you have a fire, you say the bracha on it. You don't have it, don't worry about it. And Rav Zera said, I used to search for the fire, but once I heard this halacha, I stopped. The Gemara now moves on to the next halacha in the Mishnah, which was a machlokes between Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai. If one forgot to bench and he left, does he have to go back, or could he bench where he is? Beis Hillel said he could bench where he is. Beis Shammai said he has to go back. Now the Gemara says this is only if he forgot. However, if he left on purpose without Brachos Hamazon, even Beis Hillel agrees he has to go back. The Gemara says, well, it's obvious. The Mishnah said that he forgot. The Gemara says, no, you might think that that's the only reason he uses that word is to tell you that even in case where he forgot, Beis Shammai says he still has to go back. But really, Beis Hillel argues even in the case where he did it on purpose and says he doesn't have to go back. And therefore, we come to tell you, no. In the case where he didn't say it on purpose, he does have to go back, even according to Beis Hillel. Now the Gemara elaborates on this machlokes. The Gemara says that Beis Hillel said to Beis Shammai, I don't understand you. You say he has to go back. What does it mean? If he ate at the top of a tall tower and he came down and he realized that he forgot to bench, he should schlep all the way up. So the Gemara says, Beis Shammai says back, what do you mean? Let's say he forgot a purse of gold coins there. He would schlep all the way up. No, so then if he, for his own sake, he would schlep all the way up there, so then for the sake of Evan, he should go back up there and say the bracha the way he's supposed to. Okay, now the Gemara relates to incidents that happened over here relating to this. So first of all, the Gemara says that there were two students. One followed Beis Shammai's halacha and he went back, and then he found a purse of gold coins there, just like Beis Shammai seemed to say. The other one followed what he thought was Beis Hillel's shita. He left on purpose and he did not say Brachos Hamazon, and he stopped and he benched where he was, and a lion ate him up. Second story was Rabbi Bar Bachana was traveling with a caravan and he realized that he left the place where he was and he forgot to bench. So he wanted him to stop so he could go back. But he knew that if he said that I forgot to bench, they'll say to him, keep going. You can bench wherever you are. Hashem is everywhere. So he said, what should I do? So he said to them, oh, I forgot a golden bird, a dove. So wait for me. I'm going back to get it. So he went back and he benched, and in that spot where he was, he found, lo and behold, a golden dove. So the Gemara says, what's significant about a golden? Why the dove? The Gemara says because Klal Yisrael is compared to a dove, just like a dove defends itself with its wings, Klal Yisrael only protects itself through its mitzvahs. Okay, the next halacha in the Mishnah was how long after one ate is he still allowed to say his bracha achrona. So the Gemara says the machlokes Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan says as long as he's not hungry, he's still full from his meal, then he can still say it. And Reish Lakish says that it's as long as he's still thirsty because of the food that he ate. The Gemara quotes Reish Lakish also said a different thing. He said that it's 4 mil. 4 mil is 18 minutes per mil, is about 72 minutes. So a contradiction in Reish Lakish. The Gemara says no, one is talking about where it's a large meal, one is talking about where it's a small meal. It's machlokes rishonim which is which. Either way, the halacha is like Rabbi Yochanan. As long as a person is not hungry, he's still fully full from his meal, he can still say a bracha achrona. Now the Gemara refers to the halacha which we saw in the Mishnah that you cannot say amen after the bracha of a kusi unless you heard the entire bracha. But the implication is that after the bracha of a Yisrael, you could say even if you didn't hear the bracha. The Gemara asks right away, if you didn't hear the bracha, how are you yaitze with the bracha? The Gemara answers you're not trying to be yaitze with the bracha. You're just saying amen. You didn't need anything in this case. And the Gemara says here that Reb Chia said to his son, you should try to grab the opportunity to be the one to say the bracha. Rav Huna said the same thing. Now the Gemara says, why? Why is it better to say the bracha? We have a brisa where Rabbi Yossi says, no, it's better to be the one who enters amen. And Rav Nahorai said to him, I'll prove it to you. Who gets credit for winning the war? The soldiers who fight most of the battle, the ones who swoop down at the end and seal the deal. Sealing the deal, that's where the real champions are. So you see, it's better to answer amen. It's not better to be the one to say the bracha. Where it says, okay, that's their opinion, but there's another brisa that says differently. The brisa that says that you get more schar if you're the one who says the bracha, not the one who answers amen. And therefore, it's machlokes tanaim, and these Amoraim held like the Tana that said it's better to say the bracha and advise their children to grab the bracha. Now, once on the subject of amen, the Gemara says, Shmuel asked Rav, can you say amen after children who are learning how to say bracha, so practicing the bracha, you say amen after them? So he said no. Just practicing. However, if they're saying the Haftarah, now the halacha was that children are allowed to read the Haftarah in shul. If they're saying the Haftarah, they're saying the brachas on the Haftarah, that's a real bracha, then you do say the amen. The Gemara now discusses when are you allowed to say Brachos Hamazon, when is the meal officially over? So the Gemara says it's after the final step. There's a machlokes between Rav Zilai and Rav Zivai. According to Rav Zilai, it has to be after you rub your hands with the oil. Rav Zivai says you don't have to. Rav Acha says it's got to be good oil. Smell. It has to have a good smell, perfumed oil. Rav Zuhamai says, look, somebody who smells bad is not allowed to do the avodah, the service in the Beis HaMikdash. Somebody whose hands smell bad is not allowed to say a bracha. Now Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak says, I don't know, Zilai, Zivai, Zuhamai, I don't know any of this stuff. I have a brisa. And Rav Yehuda says, the pasuk says V'hiskadashtem v'yisem kedoshim ki kadosh ani Hashem lekechem. You should be holy. V'hiskadashtem, that refers to washing before the meal. V'yisem kedoshim, that refers to washing after the meal. Ki kadosh, that refers to taking oil to rub the smell off your hands. And only afterwards is ani Hashem lekechem can you say the bracha. This is the end of Perek Elu Dvarim, and tomorrow we start the 9th Perek.